Testy. 1 2 1
Oh,
2.
okay.
We live? We
Oh,
doing
yes.
this?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh shit. People probably heard that. So an interesting thing happened over the weekend. So Violet, my daughter, has been like all her friends have lost at least a tooth, and she hasn't. She's had one that's been wiggly as shit, but hasn't lost it. So she finally lost her tooth. We're at the movie theater, Sunday morning, watching Kung Fu Panda 4. Delightful movie. And halfway through the movie, I get a little elbow in my ribs. And she says, Dad, I can't find my tooth. And I don't think it fell out of her mouth, Nicholas.
Oh.
I think it fell in.
Oh, no. Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So yeah, the tooth fairy didn't get a tooth because we weren't sifting through anything to
Mm.
find it. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, teethless people of all ages, toothless people of all ages,
It works either way.
Geeks Worldwide Radio and the Dork Shared Gooniverse proudly present to you. It is with my honor to present to you the greatest podcasting team in the world. He's the comic book writer, Nick Friar. I'm your friendly neighborhood backracker, Dr. Joe. And together we are the TLDR Comic Book Club. Baby! Nicholas, how's it going?
I am doing just dandy, Joe. Although I did, for those who listened to our latest Fireside chat, I do have to own that I can't get mad at you anymore about me getting screwed over when I call dibs on books and then I get cut by our interviews because we had Tony Fleece on recently and that was 100% my doing. I had called dibs on Farrell, but then I was like, let's see if we can maybe slide into Tony's DMs and get him on the show. Worked out. Had a great time talking with him. If you haven't listened to it yet, and you're watching us on our Twitter, YouTube, or on Instagram Live right now, and wondering why the hell can't I listen to that? Why can't I go and watch it? You can't listen to it. You can't watch it. It's only available on our audio channels. We're talking Apple, Spotify, Geek Worldwide Radio, Amazon, podcast, all the major podcasting platforms. It's the only place you can find our Fireside chats. Those are conversations with creators across the industry. We tend to talk to writers more often. They tend to be a little bit easier to access. Although Tony did break a streak for us, Joe, where we'd had creative teams on for like 3 or 4 conversations in a row. You have Axel and Michael Coast on at the same time as well. So it's the first time in a while we had we were playing a zone or 2 on a box and 1, I guess is the best way to put it.
I think you've got to go back to November, the last time that we had a solo creator on.
Something
Maybe
like
early
that.
December, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that I got to tell you guys, we warn you every time. If you're new to the show, this is the first time you're hearing it, make sure you subscribe to those audio channels, even if you love watching us on our stream, because we never know when the next Fireside chat is coming. You'll know when you see, oh, we're doing new comics only this week. We're not doing a trade. But because these things pop up out of nowhere, whether it's people reaching out to us, scheduling changes happening with people or people we had talked to previously, you name it, they can come out of anywhere. We've had back-to-back Fireside chats, and you never know when the next one's going to come. Although if we got new comics up right now, then you never know. But I can't say if there's nothing in the can. We don't want to jinx anything. But we had a great time with Tony, and I know you've been dying to talk to him for a long time between Stray Dogs and local band now Feral.
Well, I think the last time we had Kyle Higgins on, we had Stray Dogs had come up, and he's like, "Oh, I know Tony. I'll give you his contact information." And we never followed up with that, and we should have.
Yeah.
And but here we are. And what I'll say is, one, very kind, very kind. He was kind to us, thanking us for the clips and stuff that we do regarding whenever whether it's Local Man or Feral or Straight, all that stuff. So that was nice. But he was very, very interesting and very fun to talk to. Especially I love talking to the creators that are both writers and artists.
Yeah.
And especially when they're writing the book and not drawing the book. Talking to them about the process and all that. So Feral, make sure you grab that drops next week, or depending on when you listen to this, should be dropping very soon. But then the concept for his upcoming book, Uncanny Valley, which the FOC for that, unfortunately, by the time you're listening to this, has come and gone. But you can always just tell your local comic book shop you want it on your pull list, and that sounds like a fun fucking ride. That's from Boom Studios.
Yeah, and we'll be doing an early look on that leading up to Uncanny Valley because Tony
Yeah,
sent us the review copies of that. Very excited to check that out. But yeah, I had an absolute blast. Got some fun insight too. We always tend to get like some level of behind the scenes stuff from creators. It can vary in a litany of ways. Some of it with Tony was a little bit more procedural stuff, but it's still like it was some of the more interesting details I think we've ever gotten
yeah.
behind the scenes stuff. We won't spoil it any more than that. Make sure you go check it out if you haven't already. But yeah, had an absolute blast with him. And by the way, I just want to make sure it's known it was Dave Dwanch who is
Oh
Tony,
yes, thank you.
Tony,
Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah,
Tony Fleece. We've been saying Tony Fleece forever too,
yeah.
and that's got to
Fleece as white as snow.
there you go. But yes, so make sure you subscribe to the audio channels. Go check out that chat with Tony. You never know when the next one's coming. I can promise you, Tony won't be the last. And also, it probably won't be the last time we have Tony on. He brought up having him on after the end of the first arc of Feral, so maybe we'll circle back with him at some point after that. But anyways, enough about that, Joe. Let's get to catching up. This is actually a little bit of a role reversal. You don't got anything in catching up this week, right?
Well, and I'll fucking tell you why, Nicholas. It is fucking birthday season. You know
Oh
what the you
no.
know what the worst thing about being a parent is? Other kids' fucking birthday parties.
Oh man. You know what?
Jesus
You're not the
fucking Christ. We had to tag team. Megan took Violet to one on Friday night, and then I took Violet to one on Saturday. And then this coming weekend, there's 3 more in 2 fucking days.
wow.
I had to tell
Jeez.
Megan, I said, I think we need to axe one of these because it's a bit much. It's a bit much. And the one on Friday was Friday night from 5 to 7. So of course, right, my kid, I love her to death, but we're all prone to melting down. God knows I've done it a few times on this program. And just man, that's like, why would you do that? Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Holy smoke. So
I'll
I didn't get a chance to read. And I'm bummed because I've got some really great books I need to catch up on. One of them being the TMNT book that I had said last week I'll talk about this week, but it'll have to wait another week.
I'll tell you what, this is that was I'm just gonna say what everybody else is thinking that's listening right now. That is a very weird flex on you talking about how popular your kid is. She's got too many birthdays to go to. So weird flex by you.
So here's the thing, Nicholas. Again, it's not a fucking flex
I'm
because you're
kidding.
gonna find out that when your kid has a birthday party, you got to invite the entire fucking class.
Oh no, really?
Yes.
Now I know when my parent so either my parents never
So
let me invite friends.
you got to do it
Mm,
on the side, right?
mm,
That's how you know you're in. Is when
mm.
you go to the birthday party and the entire class isn't there,
Oh, okay.
right? Yeah.
Okay. That now I know. But I will say too, in fairness, a lot of I definitely learned some like parenting gripe things from you, like that, like that's a thing. This is one that I heard from other people before I've heard from you. Like surprisingly,
Yeah.
that like just how other kids' birthdays can be like, a lot of extra that you don't necessarily need.
And
But
and like here's the other thing. It's not typically something that the dads go to. It's usually like the moms, right?
mm,
And so like you can tell like that all the kids were at the party the night before because the party I was at was mostly dads, right? So it's like we all conceded the Friday night party. We'll take the Saturday one, right? But it's like it's just like it's a bunch of fucking people I don't want to talk to, right? Just get this fucking thing going so I can get back home.
that sounds like
Anyways,
so
yeah,
much fun. Well,
yeah.
for those of us who don't have children yet, I got to catch up on stuff over since we last convened. I am all caught up on I Hate Fairyland. I had to read issues 11 and 12 of the newest run, but I had been catching up on that part. I talked about the initial run of I Hate Fairyland on the show not too long ago, and just outstanding stuff, Joe. I think when you're looking for something to binge again, this needs to move at the top of your pile. I think you're going to absolutely love this thing.
Yeah, I can't wait. I got to read that, and I'm finding now that like I need more like there's certain books that I'm finding just lend themselves to being binge read.
Hmm.
Right. I
Yeah.
talked about this with like the Enfield Gang Massacre. That book needed to be read all in one trade.
Hmm.
I have a DC book, Nicholas, that I'm going to talk about that I'm starting to feel that way with.
Oh, interesting.
Needing to binge because there's some titles that, like, when you read them month to month,
True.
it's not that they lose something, but I think when you can read it all as one, and it's the only way I've read this title previously, was all in one shot, and I've enjoyed it very much that way. But um, I want to mention that because there's a book coming up when we get to DC that I'll mention that on.
Well, we'll get to that shortly. Of course, we got Marvel to get through first, but before I do that, I do want to mention Vengeance of the Moon Knight. I've read the first two issues of Jed McKay's new Moon Knight title. I am all caught up. I will elaborate on that more because we have another issue of that out this week. So let's get started with what's new. What do we got from Marvel?
All right, from Marvel, the week of March 20th, 2024, the year of our Lord, we have Fantastic Four issue we have Fantastic Four issue 18. We have the Invincible Iron Man issue 16. We have Resurrection of Magneto issue 3. Blade issue 9, Spider Boy issue 5, Black Panther issue 10, Spider Woman issue 5, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver issue 2, Star Wars The High Republic issue 5, Captain Marvel issue 6, Star Wars Thrawn Alliances issue 3, Wolverine Madripoor Knights issue 2, Night Thrasher issue 2, Beware the Planet of the Apes issue 3, X-Men Forever issue 1. This is written by Kieran Gillen. I wanted to get to this one this week, just didn't get a chance to. We have Web of Spider-Man issue 1. Another book I wanted to get to, Star Wars Visions issue 1. This, of course, is
The
written and
Ronin.
drawn by Takashi
I can't help you on this one.
Takashi Okazaki. Thank you.
Okay. Well done, sir.
And Django Fett issue 1. And then the book, Nicholas, you want to touch upon real quick is
Vengeance of the Moon Knight, issue 3. This is Jed McKay and Alessandro Capuccio. They, of course, did all the latest Moon Knight run, and they've been doing this title for a little bit. I've played a lot of catch up when it comes to this title. I am going to do a standalone episode. I'm waiting to see how this one ends to decide which one I want to do. I'm leaning towards just the Moon Knight one, but we'll see where this goes. But Vengeance of the Moon Knight issue 3. What's been going on right now is you have this guy who's come back as Moon Knight because Mark Spector is supposedly dead. We have not seen this guy unmasked to this point coming into issue 3, and we're hearing like, no, it's not Mark Spector. Tigra is kind of given like a big, taking a pretty significant stance on it, and her and Mark were having a thing when Mark did pass recently. But I've loved what they've done so far, and this imposter Moon Knight is kind of turning back the clock in doing stuff Moon Knight's done in the past, where he's like really heavily targeting villains and not just trying to protect like the travelers at night. And really recently with like Jed McKay's run, he'd taken on like the the Midnight Mission that he'd gone and built and everything. But now that he's gone, this guy's saying like, no, like I am Moon Knight. I'm not I'm not an imposter, and he's going to go after all these people, and it's getting a little bit crazier in this issue. There's a specific thing that Mark Spector used to do that this guy is now doing that comes up in this issue, and it was the imagery was just, it was perfect. And even like this, the first page that you get in this issue, I'm sure some people have seen the preview pages. I love the design of this imposter Moon Knight because it still looks like him, but there have been some pretty significant changes. So I'm really enjoying it. And then on top of it, if you liked the Moon Knight run originally, you're dealing with a lot of the same characters from before, and they're kind of fed up with this guy, and they take some steps in this issue towards trying to deal with that situation. So I'm all in on Vengeance and the Moon Knight. I'm all in on what Jed McKay's been doing recently, and obviously we found out that he's going to be doing one of the X-Men titles with friend of the show Ryan Stegman, which actually we probably should have talked about off the top.
Yeah, we should have mentioned that real quick. So I love it because we've been in the Krakoa era, right? For 4 years now, 5 years now.
Been a minute,
Right, right. And so now we've been talking at length about the fall of Krakoa and all of that, and now it looks like we're getting the next run of X-Men, and this feels a lot more classic X-Men
Mhm,
to me, right?
mhm.
Just from the art styles I've seen, like Ryan Stegman's been posting a lot of stuff on his Instagram and on Twitter about his art designs for his upcoming title that he's working on and everything else. So I can't wait. Especially now I think, again, by the time you're listening to this, if you're watching us live, it's tomorrow. By the time you're downloading this audio, I believe it'll be out. X-Men 97, the animated series, which
Yeah,
I've been ripping through the animated series,
nice.
lately, and just I mean, it was such a part of my childhood, so I can't wait for that. But like, yeah, this Moon Knight stuff sounds fantastic, and the X-Men stuff coming out, it's all just kick ass.
So there's a ton of titles that got announced, but there were three primary ones, three primary X-Men teams, and I'm blanking on the names of the teams right now. But we know that one of the creative teams, as I mentioned, is Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman, and that one is headed by Cyclops. It's set in Alaska. I'm interested. I'm going to
Oh,
check it out.
100%.
I'm not the biggest like Cyclops guy, so but Beast is on that team too, and I'm blanking on who else. But that creative team, like they have that respect. Like they like McKay is an excellent writer, and obviously Ryan Stegman. You don't need to say more than his name. And then when it comes to then we have Gail Simone on another title. I'm blanking on her artist right now, but I remember checking out his style, and it was because the name I wasn't as familiar with, but it felt like similar to what we've kind of seen with X-Men over the years, and very, very like tight art style. So, but for me, it was like, okay, we have a good art style. We have Gail Simone, who I think does an outstanding job. And then the team that they have that has Wolverine, Gambit, Rogue, and Nightcrawler.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't like, I don't like, I'm in 1,000% for so many different reasons, but just that alone. So I'm very excited. We saw some other titles like Wolverine, Phoenix. I know Storm's got a title as well. So we keep hearing the rumblings about Capullo being the next Wolverine artist. We haven't talked to him in a long time now since we had him on with Scott Snyder. But like I would love to see that.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah, Capullo drawing Wolverine. Yes. The thing I'll say about Cyclops is I always loved Cyclops because I love his power. Right,
Mm.
him as he's a bit of a Leonardo, if you will.
Yes, that's my problem.
Right, but I love his look, and I always loved his power. Just
Mm.
just whenever that was drawn, just him just shooting, the laser beam, out of his visor. I always fucking loved that look, and I loved, those mid '90s X-Men, those comics. So I am all fucking in, and I also over the weekend got a Bishop Funko Pop to add to my X-Men
Ooh.
collection.
Ooh,
Yeah,
nice. Yeah,
yeah.
Bishop's freaking beast, man. Real quick before we move on to DC too, so I wanted to circle back on this. So, Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman's title is simply X Men. Gail Simone and Dave Marquez, they're doing the Uncanny X Men. And then the third X Men title. Again, we have other ones within the world like Phoenix and Storm and whatnot.
Oh, we're gonna get 1,000 fucking titles here, but yeah.
They've announced them. But there's like I think it's like 7, maybe a little more, maybe something like that. But exceptional X Men. That's by Eve L. Ewing and Carmen Carnero. Who I
Oh,
feel
Al
like
Ewing's fantastic.
no. Eve L. Ewing, not
Oh,
yes,
gotcha.
not Al Ewing, but Carmen Carnero. That name seems familiar. I can't place it though. But anyways, let's move on to their best buddies, DC. We got Batman, Superman, World's Finest issue 25, Titans issue 9, Wonder Woman issue 7, Justice Society of America issue 9, Catwoman 63, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong issue 6, Green Lantern War Journal issue 7, Batman 89, Echoes issue 2, DC April special issue 1. Of course, we got John Constantine, Hellblazer Dead in America issue 3, which, I mean, again, just been loving what Cy Spurrier and Aaron Campbell do with the character.
So this is the book I was alluding to
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
because I've only read Spurrier's run on Constantine
Oh, yeah.
altogether, right? And the first two volumes are, I wouldn't call them an anthology, but like they're pretty much like, singular stories, in there with, I think there being like a little mini arc
Yes.
in there. But what I find is that this character and the way that Sai, writes him, is that for me, going month to month, I lose something in the
Mm,
storytelling there, because there is a lot of that inner monologue, right, in that narration with Constantine, and the story, it's not like it's a fast paced thing, and I'm not saying that as a negative, because as a singular story, I think this is one of those instances like I talked about with Saga, right?
mhm,
Give me an opportunity to read it all at once, right? The volume all at once, and I think I'm going to get more out of it. And this is a me thing,
mm,
just because of, again, we read so many comics, each and every week, that some books you can read and bang 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 bang. You don't skip a beat when you go month to month. Others, when they're a little bit more heady, right?
mhm.
And that's that's size, storytelling there. I kind of need it all at once so I can just rip
Yeah,
right through it, sort of
yeah.
thing.
There's the like the collector in me, because I do like have certain titles that I like to get and have for myself and everything like that. There's just certain covers, not just for reading purposes, but also just like I like to have them. Um, I like wouldn't want to do this, but you and I have talked about it before. I feel like a natural progression, because you see with manga where it's all just like trades essentially for them. I feel like a natural progression for comics would be we release the first issue, and then you do an arc. Like you don't do like you release it as a trade, which will then feature the first issue. People want it, and maybe you don't do it for as expensive as you do them now, but like I understand that's like taking out a major part of the business, but I also think from like a reader retention standpoint, where we always hear about there's this huge drop off after number two. I feel like if people really like number one and they're gonna check out number two, there's a decent chance that they want to check out a trade still. So that's just me. I've been thinking on that one for a long while, but people smarter than me making decisions, maybe I don't know. But anyways,
Well, it all comes down to money,
yeah,
Nicholas.
exactly, and I can understand how the way it is now could be more profitable than the other, but I also see how the other one could be riskier. But anyways, let's so we got Superman issue 12, which you are reading that title, and then you want to discuss Nightwing issue 112.
Yeah, because it 115 starts the end of Taylor's run, right?
14.
114,
Yes, sir.
right? So we're vastly and quickly approaching that. We're coming off, the sea chanty arc, that preceded this. I love this issue. This was great because so much of what we've gotten with Nightwing, right, has been um is it's been telling sort of one big grand story, and this was a nice singular issue. It was it tied into the issue prior, right? So it's not like it's its own thing. You would have had to have read 113, I mean 111, to kind of get what's going on here, but like that was just a nice tight contained little two-issue story, that we got here. And I love this because we got a lot of great interaction between, um, Dick and Bruce. And again, Tom Taylor does what Chip Zdarsky does so well, and sort of taps into this emotional core, of this character now, where with Daredevil being an extraordinarily flawed character, what he's dealing with and grappling with, is much different than what, Dick Grayson is dealing with. And they're two completely different characters. I would say, like, on the goodness scale, right? They're both like extremely moral, and decent human beings. But with Dick, what you have there is you're seeing it from a much more, um what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't know. I feel like there's a different type of goodness, right, that you get with him than you say you do with Matt Murdock. And I love what Tom has done with this character, because he's sort of put Nightwing on this pedestal, but it never feels like, um he's too like goody two shoes, if you
Mm,
will.
Mhm.
And we got in this issue, some of his training early on when he was a kid, and that anger that he has, because he very much has this deep-seated anger like Bruce has, but they manifest it, right? That's the real difference between Batman and Nightwing. Is I think Nightwing is every is every bit as good as Batman is, but Batman just has this psychotic edge to him that Dick doesn't have, and you
Mhm.
really kind of you see that a little bit here. And I thought this was excellent. I love it. I mean, I don't want Taylor to stop writing Nightwing,
Mhm.
because he's the reason why I really give a shit about this character in the first place.
Yeah.
Uh, but I love what he's done, and I don't know. There was just something about this issue where it didn't really, there was some heartless stuff in it, but it wasn't like bang, like you weren't knee deep in it, so to speak. We got just this nice tight little story here, and now like you can tell we're getting ready for the final send off, and I'm glad I had this before that kicked into full gear.
Nice. Yeah, he's done such a great job. I am a smidge behind on Nightwing right now, but I am very excited for Taylor's final arc. But I feel similar to you. Like I don't want to see it end, but it's going to end at some point. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he handles that. To give you a quick little breather, because you got another title you're about to talk about. From Skybound, we got The Walking Dead Deluxe issue 85, GI Joe: A Real American Hero issue 305, and Cobra Commander issue 3. When you talk about catching up, that was the one book that I really wanted to catch up on this weekend and just for some reason didn't, was Transformers. I still haven't
Well,
issue 6. But yeah. Anyways, what about our friends from AWA, Joe? What do we got?
man, we have You and I issue 2, and I remember talking about the first issue, right, a month ago or so, when we got it. And man, so this is, again, this is J. Michael Straczynski, and this is, like I said, this is a Resistance Universe book, which I've been craving for. But it's Mike Choi's art that I think really has pulled me in these first two issues. You're dealing with this character who has got powers, but he's got no fucking clue who he is. And what I love about Mike Choi's art here is that you're getting a lot of these panels in two different styles. You're seeing the world through the main character's eye, you, which is, as I mentioned last time, sort of like looking through the world through rose-colored glasses. Everything is awesome. Everything is like really kicked up a notch. And then you'll see it. The same panel sort of will have two different art styles on it, and then you start seeing what the reality is.
Mhm.
And it is dark, and it is bleak, and it is grim. And so like you've got bright and you've got dark, and that's sort of like what this character is, and sort of what the story is. And as I was reading it, issue 2, I was like, at first I was like, oh, he's like seeing the world through rose colored glasses. And I go, no, this is more like you're reading, it's like a schizophrenic, right? And so the character is like, he's like, it's almost like he's in a different reality, not just
Mhm.
how he sees the world, but like the way he interacts with Isabella, who is I, and sort of this mission that he is on. It's sort of like this. He's not living in reality. He's like a schizophrenic. There's like he's a man on a mission, and we don't know what the fuck this mission is, even if it's real or not. And I love that. It's just such an interesting story, and it's captivating. It pulls you in. The art style is absolutely dynamic. I fucking love it. Like, just you'll get one panel, two different shades, two different colors, reality versus uh you know non-reality. And it's wild. I can't wait to talk about this book in more detail. But I love it, and I'm glad that we've got another Resistance book, 'cause I think AWA we need some more Resistance titles, um, because it's such a fascinating concept and universe that they created. So Love this when it comes out. Can't wait to read the next one. And yeah,
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like it's been quite the experience reading that, which is whenever we can get to that level on a title, I feel like that like elevated to like another level where it's not just like a great comic is awesome, but like to me when we're talking like it's an experience, it's like a next level.
and the thing too that sort of distinguishes this book from the other AWA titles that we get to. Again, Mike Choi's got a very distinct art style, but like there's a grittiness I think that we've sort of grown accustomed to with AWA titles, depending on the artists they have.
Mm,
And this one feels more comic booky, if that makes sense. Like
mm,
I'm reading a superhero book,
mm.
but it's really anything but, right. And I just cannot I cannot speak highly enough of Mike Joy's art in this book.
Nice. So you and I issue two, and then over at Boom, moving over there, Joe. 'Cause I know we got a title there that we want to discuss. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue 13, Lotus Land, issue 5, Dune, House Corino, issue 1, Man's Best, issue 1. Did you read Man's Best, issue 1?
I did not get a chance to read Man's Best.
It I did, and it was like it was solid. It didn't. I
Is
like
that porn check?
yes,
Yeah,
yes. It's the with the what is it? Support animals in space. It didn't
gotcha.
move the needle for me wholly. So it was like solid, like okay, but it's with how many awesome books there are right now, it didn't
Mm,
fully do it for me. But that's just me. You may feel differently when you read it, quite honestly. But
yeah.
the book for me that this is. I don't talk about my book of the week too often. I don't throw that label out as often as you might, Joe. But I also don't talk about the conversation of book of the year this early often. But The Displaced has entered that conversation for me.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Because I undibsed it so you could fucking read it,
I
Nicholas.
read I read that shit before you called dibs. I didn't
Yeah,
want
but I
that,
ain't
but
called dibs.
you did.
Right? You
You're
weren't
right.
for
You
the
did.
first time in your life. You weren't fast enough. Quick draw.
Yeah, look at that. It's a damn shame. But I'll tell you what, I'm in love with this book. Like so this is Ed Brisson and Luca Casalanguida. We posted actually some preview pages on Instagram. So if you haven't checked it out, if you haven't looked at the displays at all, I'm sure there are still some first issues kind of hanging around at some local comic shop. So check that out. Check out our preview pages, and then pick up the second issue. It's so good. And the best way to like sum this up is like every ounce like the first issue was outstanding, and then every ounce of momentum that they had in that first issue maintained it and just ran with it in this issue. I absolutely love this thing. In like the in the first issue synopsis, there was the last line said, "How can you feel connected to reality or each other if by all veritable means you don't exist?" And this issue, like that first issue, they kind of like they talked about that, but they didn't dig into that. This issue, they start digging into that, and it's to the point, Joe. I'm not joking. Where I read the first issue and I was like, this feels like it could happen. And then the second issue, I'm like Ed Brisson and Luca Costa Laguida are making me wonder: has this happened to people in real life? It feels that odd and real to me. I'm not kidding.
This issue got very meta, and I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know where things were going to go after the first issue, but I was very excited. And then we get there, and just the interactions that the various characters had with meaningful people in their lives, and then what was happening to the old man that we met in the first issue, like the way this one ended. Again, like you talk about it, like momentum, like it took every ounce of intrigue you had from the first issue, carried it over, and then added even more by
Yep.
the end of the second issue. And it was so friggin' good. And what I love more than anything is that this is Oshawa, Ontario, I believe, and
Yes.
where Ed Brisson, right? So I love that Ed Brisson just like keeps tweeting out that like people keep like the people of Oshawa just like are absolutely in love with this book because this small little town in
Yeah.
Ontario, Canada is getting all this love. And I even think like the mayor of Oshawa wrote him a letter, right,
Yes.
about it. So I like, to me, that is like just the greatest thing in the world, because here's this man, he grew up in a small, like Jeff Lemire does this, right? Like a lot of his stories take place in either fictionalized, versions of the small Canadian town they grew up in. So here he is, he's writing this story, and all of a sudden it's like, bang, all this love, like from the people. And I guess he said like people like say, "Oh, where is this house? I find it. The addresses don't match up." And he goes, "Well, I mean, I told the artist about my house. I didn't realize that there were so many houses that actually looked like the So that just cracks me up. But like, this is an absolutely fantastic story, that a book that I feel like, if you've listened to us, you know that we love Ed Brisson. We've talked about a bunch of his books before, especially The Sultan of the Sea, from
Yes. For me.
AWA Studios. He's a great writer, and I feel like this is just one of those books that just kind of came out of nowhere and is going to be absolutely massive.
Yeah, if you haven't started reading The Displaced, check it out, pick it up. It's really the first issue just it sets it's like unlike anything else out there in terms of a story. And then the second issue, just again, like we've been saying, it just takes that not I can't say natural next step, because like you don't know that's going to happen. They talk about it, but like it just he just first two issues have been bangers, plain
Yeah.
and simple. So check it out. I do find it funny too. There's like a little joke about the name of Oshawa in the in this issue too. I'll leave it for you guys to go find that when you're reading. But I got a little chuckle out of that. But awesome stuff. What about Dark Horse, Joe?
Okay, I'll take us through Dark Horse and a few of these other ones.
Thank you.
So from a Dark Horse, we have If You Find This, I'm Already Dead, issue 2, which you are reading. Stranger Things, The Voyage, issue 4. And then this one confused me because we got it in a review, folder. Dawn Runner, issue 1, written by Ron V, a book that I have dibs on, right?
Yeah,
And then it was announced, you said, late last week, that it's being released all at once in a hardcover, right?
I
So did we read that right, or is it like, no, we're going to release these as single issues and then give you the hardcover, or are we just getting this first issue? It's like you talked about earlier, right?
yeah,
Here's this book, boom, here's the first issue, and then
yeah.
the hardcover comes out. So a little confused there. Um,
I'm curious
but
how that goes, and I think the reason, like, it's because we saw that out there, and I can't remember who like reported it, but I saw Rom V had retweeted it in some capacity.
yeah,
That's the only reason why, like, I sent it over to you. But once, so I thought it was strange because we see that, and then we get the first issue. The only reason I can think that this happened is because
it already
the
gone to print,
well, they already had they already gotten variant covers for the first issue,
right?
so that's probably what it was. So
Yeah.
maybe so like I'm talking about this, and I brought that up. Maybe this is like just a test, like not an unintentional test, and I would love to see how that goes. I'd be very
Yeah.
curious. But yeah, so Dawn Runner issue 1. Yeah, you gotta, yeah, you
Yeah.
bastard.
But now I gotta wait too. I get the first issue. Now I gotta wait. From IDW, we have Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue 4. This is the book that I've referred to as Berenstain Bears meets Dexter, although I stole that from, might have been, I can't remember what writer more more cleverly put it. But so I stole that from them. But that is an apt description of that fucking awesome book. We have Star Trek issue 18, Dungeons and Dragons Fortune Finder issue 5, TMNT The Untold Destiny of the Foot Clan issue 1, and My Little Pony Main Event issue 1. There's a pun there. MANE.
I'm
From
waiting for the apple bottom story. What the fuck?
Apple bottom jeans, yeah, boots with the fur. From Titan, we have Blade Runner 2039 issue 11. So this so this is gonna sound familiar. Like, what am I listening to last week's episode? No, fucking League of Comic Geeks, blame them. Blade Runner 2039 issue 11 and Rebel Moon House of the Blood Axe issue 3. From Ablaze, we have Almost Dead issue 2 and The Agent issue 5. I feel like we just got issue 4, so this could be,
Mm.
again, another screw up by them. But hey, let's not yell at them for something they haven't done yet. From Dynamite, we have Gargoyles issue 12, Lilo and Stitch issue 2, James Bond 007, written by Garth Ennis, issue 3. Army of Darkness Forever, issue 6. Vampirella, issue 667. Savage Red Sonja, issue 5, written by friend of the show, Dan Panosian. And I believe that is the conclusion to that story. And then we have Elvira meets H.P. Lovecraft, issue 2. From Mad Cave, Nicholas, we have Dear Editor, issue 3. I feel like it's been a hot minute since we've gotten a Dear Editor book.
Yes, yeah, and I actually got to check out the second one too. That's one I fell behind on. That was a that was that a double that was not a double sized first issue. But anyways, yeah, Dear Editor issue 3, and then we got
Oh,
Image.
hold on, before we get to Image, we have dun 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 from Comixology, Duck and Cover issue 3.
Oh
Again, you want
shit!
to talk about a hot minute since a book has come out. Yeah.
Wow.
So I got the alert on my phone that was being downloaded. So that's from Scott Snyder, of
Of course.
course.
Nice.
But
Okay.
yes,
Good to know.
Image.
Image. We got a ton as usual and quite a few awesome titles. We got Spawn 351, The Scorched 27, Something Epic issue 8, The Holy Roller issue 5, Evil issue 5.
I'm gonna stop putting that book down from Image each month that comes out.
Oh, well,
Because you doing that is fucking creepy as hell.
Mira Gandolfo is going to be upset. She said I have to say it like that. She told me that. So I don't know what you want me to do.
I'm gonna put it down and I'll say it because you're fucking weird about it.
No, in all seriousness, we had talked about getting her on a while back, and then we just different things became priorities, and we've never still not had her on. But I think she's going to be at C2E2, and it'd be funny if we got her on and just asked her, like, "What do you think about this?" I think she'd like it. I think she'd
Oh, I
appreciate
know she would, and that would suck because it would just encourage you.
So there we go. Now more motivation for me to have her on. Midlife or How to Hero at 50, issue 6. And then we got two titles two other titles you're reading: The Bloody Dozen, a tale of the Shrouded College, issue 4. The Bone Orchard Mythos, Tenement, issue 10. I actually also missed Dutch issue 2 in there, which neither actually did you read the first issue of Dutch?
No.
No, okay. And then we got a couple titles that you and I want to dig into: a second issue and a penultimate issue. Where do you want to start?
Let's start with the Infernals issue 2.
Nice. Yeah. So Ryan Parrott, Noah Gardner, John Pearson had him on the show a while back. If you haven't checked out the Infernals yet, check out that conversation. Again, I would think, second issue is coming out now. That if you haven't read the first issue, you could probably get your hands on it still. Pick up these two and get moving on it. We really liked the first issue a lot. The second issue, same thing. We heard about a new player at the end of the second issue, and it wasn't in a way of like in the natural course of the story. It was very interesting. Like it was like a letter to the readers. I found like it wasn't necessary, but I was also very welcome that the guys decided to do that. So we knew coming in that there was there might be a new player at some point getting added to the mix. We meet that new player here right away. Instant impact felt. Definitely going to be a handful throughout the course of this story. And then we'd also been told by Ryan and Noah and John that the narrators were going to be moving around, like switching around throughout the course of the story. In this issue, we get to hear from Nero, and massive issue for him on a few different levels. And this is a character, Joe, who I liked in the first issue, and now I feel like I'm invested in him significantly more after the events of the second issue of Infernals.
Yeah, see, Baphomet is still my favorite character.
Mm.
And there's something that Pearson does with her, you know, with her eyes, and again, we've talked about this with a few artists now, just putting this wry smile on a character in the middle of what is a really sort of twisted scene. But yeah, like I don't want to spoil it, but the character that we're introduced to, very fitting that like that character is potentially more evil than the son of the devil.
Yeah.
I just found that to be like, oh yeah, that's fantastic. Like
Yep.
Like, who would the son of the devil be afraid of? Oh, yeah, that
Yep.
that
100%.
that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a great issue to sort of further give you insight into the children or the grandchildren of the devil. But there were also some other things that happened in this issue where you go, oh,
Yeah.
okay, oh boy, we're cooking with gas, pun intended there. Considering we're dealing with hell and everything. But that was a fantastic issue, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was really good. Like a great second issue, and we talked about it before. Like we understand how important the first issue is in terms of the business, but I really do think from like a reader like you run into people who just want to get the first issue in their collectors, and then you have people who are like, I really like this first issue. I'm absolutely going to check out the second one. I do think the second one is like has a level of make or break, just from at least from like a conceptual standpoint. We don't know the numbers in terms of the retention after the second versus the third and whatnot. But either way, really enjoyed what we've gotten from Ryan and Noah Gardner and John Pearson on the Infernals. And then, Joe, to round things out, we have the penultimate issue of Kill Your Darlings, issue 7. Griff Sheridan, Ethan S. Parker, Bob Quinn. Of course, had him on the show a couple times. I know you have issues with them, but I don't think you had any issues with this particular issue.
Uh, Wallace is still alive, so far we're good. We're good.
We'll see.
But this issue was, I mean, I think they, when we had them on the first, well, when I listened to it the first time, because I wasn't with them the first time, but even when we talked to them the second time, I think this was the issue they kept alluding to way back when.
I think you're right.
This was a cataclysmic issue, right? Because at one, it's the penultimate issue, and it's got to set up the grand finale. But so much happens, and I again, I don't want to like be like, oh, right, but like it was epic. There were
Yeah,
some
it
things
was.
that happened in this issue, both from a storytelling standpoint and from an artistic standpoint, that just sort of blew me away. And I love Bob Quinn's art throughout this entire run, but this particular issue, because we got some really big scenery and just scenes in this, and sort of what's at stake, for all the characters involved, the backstory that, or the revelation that one of the characters receives, was huge, right?
Mhm.
And just everything. Again, this arc has been very emotional, right from the get go. And we get to kind of circle back to that in this issue. So just this is great stuff.
Yeah.
You should be reading it. Again, we don't encourage trade waiting. If you never got on board, from the start, and you're listening to us now, and you're that, shit, I got to read that. Then like you go pick up volume 1, read it, and then as soon as volume 2 drops, if you can't get your hands on the floppies, or you can grab them digitally, do so. You're missing out if you haven't been reading it, plain
I
and
wonder.
simple.
I wonder. I don't know if I saw volume 1. I'm wondering if they're going to do this all at once. It would make a lot of sense for this particular story.
I thought they did. Maybe not.
Maybe
Maybe
I'm
you're right.
maybe I'm misremembering, but either way, I by and large agree with everything you said. Yeah, this is definitely one of those books that you're missing out on if you haven't been checking it out. And again, like we don't talk about it, but like that is a book that you almost didn't read because you like, and I get it. Like that first issue, kind of like you were like, I don't know, like the kid is gonna, not because of a quality standpoint, because it was gonna freak you out, but it's like you would have had serious FOMO, Joe, if this whole time
Oh, you
you,
kidding me? Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm looking at it now. According to League of Comic Geeks, it looks like it says here, "Kill Your Darlings" trade paperback releases July 9th. So they
Okay.
might be doing it all at once.
Right,
So
which
yeah.
which does make a lot of sense since this is
For
just
some
one.
reason, I thought they did a volume 1, but
Yeah,
I guess I'm just old and senile.
yeah, it happens to the best of us. But again, final issue, like, and you talked about the quality of the series; it's just been outstanding. For me, the only things that I wanted to add is like there's so much that can happen in this final issue. Like we can see different ways it can go, but also we don't know which way it's going to go. Love that. I mean, you can't ask for more than that going into a final chapter of a story. And the biggest thing too, to kind of like, if I was to like just sum up, like what makes Kill Your Darlings so good? Like, of course, you have Bob Quinn's art, but from a writing standpoint, at its core, what this story does so well is like it. You have like every time a question gets raised, which I mean, for this story is freaking constant, the answers that we get lead to more questions. And I don't think you can ask for more than that from a great story. So you have that paired with Bob Quinn's art style, and it's just and what he's done in this series. We can't praise him enough. Just how versatile he's been. There's one cute, like we've had a lot of cute characters in this story. I talk about it all the time, but there was one in particular, like more so than ever, where I was like, nothing better happen to that fucking character. I am going to be pissed if that character dies. I like some of the like a lot of these cute characters, but like they're more so than ever with that specific one. So
Yeah, I think I
yeah,
know what you're saying.
yeah, 100%. So without spoiling it, but yeah, so that is going to do it for us this weekend. Reminder: if you haven't already subscribed to one of our audio channels, it's the only place you can get our Friar Side chats. You never know when those are going to come because we never know when those are going to come. So keep your peepers popped, as Joe likes to say. And Joe, until next week, stay sexy.
You know it, baby.